The board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Flowers, Alderman Bosley, Alderman Moore, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Ingracia, Alderwoman Young, Alderman Conway, Alderman Ortman, Alderman Vollmer, Alderman Villa, Alderman Arnowitz, Alderman Wessels, Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Florida, Alderwoman Behringer, Alderman Rhodey, Alderman Kennedy, Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Schmid, Alderman French, Alderman Boyd, Alderman Vaccaro, Alderman Ogilvy, Alderman Cone, Alderman Williamson, Alderman Carter, Alderwoman Cruzen, President Reed,
Here.
Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Flowers, Alderman Bosley, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderman Conway, Alderman Ortman, Alderman Rhodey, Alderman Kennedy, Alderman French, Alderman Cone, Alderwoman Cruzen, 20 present.
A quorum being present, I'll ask everyone in chambers and galleries who's able to stand to please rise for prayer. Before we begin prayer this morning, I'd like to all of us to just offer a moment of silence and also silent prayer for the victims and the families of the victims of the Naval Yard shooting this week in Washington. So please join me for a moment of silence. Giving all honor to God, Almighty God, source of all authority, we humbly ask guidance in our deliberations and wisdom in our conclusions. Amen. We'll dispense with our regular order of business, take up our courtesy resolution calendar. I move for adoption of our courtesy resolution calendar, seconded by the Alderman from the 22nd. Alderwoman from the 7th, would you like to approach the dais?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I approached the dais today to celebrate a special occasion, and I'd like to ask Ed Bushmeyer, the city assessor, and his family and guests to come up on the podium with the alderwoman from the 16th, who is his alderwoman. Today we're going to recognize Ed because he's one of the privileged people who's lived long enough and served long enough that he can walk out of here and retire. And he has the wisdom to know that if he retires now, he can have lots of fun with the babies that are here with him. There are actually 3 of them, and Ed and Louise and Lisa and Kevin are having a great time, and they're very active because the kids have made them younger. With that, I want to read this resolution, and I want you to know that the reason that I'm doing this, rather than other people in the room, is that Ed and Louise have been a part of my life since the late 70s, early 80s. We grew up together, more or less. Ed and Louise were tenants of mine at one time. So we have a long history together. With that said, I'll start this, and hopefully you'll bear with me, because he's had a long career here. Whereas we've been advised that after many years of dedicated public service, including 30 years to the city of St. Louis, Ed Bushmeyer will soon retire. And whereas Ed Bushmeyer began his career of public service as a VISTA volunteer in Soulard, where he met his partner for life, Louise Tonkovich. Together, they were Soulard's barkeepers operating Tammany Hall, the gathering place and hub of political conversations in Soulard. And whereas Ed took his own step into politics by running for and serving as the 83rd District Missouri State Representative, and this whetted his appetite for many future political campaigns where he worked to help other candidates for a variety of offices. And whereas Ed joined city government in 1981 when he became a member of newly elected Vince Shamel's staff, serving as press secretary until '89. And whereas since then, Ed has worn a number of different hats in city government, serving as supply commissioner, special assistant to the water commissioner, acting director of public utilities, director of communications for Mayor Harmon, chief of staff to the president of the Board of Aldermen, director of public safety, and as a member of the city's employee pension board. And whereas Ed has served as assessor since November 2002, having achieved the record for the longest-serving assessor in the city's history. And whereas Ed holds a bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of Missouri St. Louis and a master's degree in urban affairs, and he's demonstrated a phenomenal ability to analyze the problems before him, communicate effectively with those around him, make professional decisions on behalf of the city's best interest, thus garnering the respect of many admirers. And whereas Ed and Louise chose to enlarge their family by adopting Christopher and Lisa when they were just toddlers, a decision which has enriched their lives. And now as proud parents, they boast of Christopher's launch into a successful engineering career and share loving stories and beautiful photographs of Lisa and Christopher, or Kevin's marriage, and 3 babies that keep the entire family busy. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we pause in our deliberations to congratulate and thank Ed for his 30 years of service with the City of St. Louis, wishing him peace, happiness, and good health in his retirement as he devotes himself full-time to his family in the role of loving husband, father, and pop-pop. And we direct the clerk of this board to spread this resolution so that we may present it. So, with that, we have Ed and his family, which he's looking forward to spending a lot of time with in the future up here. And I think that probably there are some people who would like to congratulate him on his 30 years of service. And we could all tell many stories, and this would go on forever, but I'll not share any more with you right now.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman from the 23rd.
First, I'd like to congratulate Ed. He's been real helpful to me. He's probably going to get tired of me calling him and having him come meet people one-on-one, but he was a great guy to work with. And if it's appropriate, I would ask that we do this in bank.
It's been moved that we make it in banks by the Alderman from the 23rd, seconded by the Alderman from the 26th. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, please prepare another copy in bank. Any further discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
I would like to congratulate Ed on his retirement and wish him well. Ed's been in public service since I volunteered for Vince Shamel back in the day with my mother. So, you know, it's been a long ride. It hasn't been quite as intimate as his relationship with the aldermen. However, it has been by far and up close many times. But I wish you the best and enjoy your family.
Alderman from the 3rd.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'd just like to say the city is going to miss Ed Bushmeyer. As many times as the alderpersons here, and I know I worried the devil out of you about various things that people called about, and you were always helpful. You are what we call a public servant. I remember you when you worked here at the Board of Aldermen. We worried you then, and you thought you got away by going downstairs. But we found you and we called you anyway. The city is going to miss you, and let me just tell you, you're going to have some fun the first few weeks that you're off, but you're going to miss us too.
I think the Alderman from the 25th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ed, congratulations on your retirement. I can't say enough good things about you. I respect the work and the service that you provided for our city so much. And I believe that you're just a consummate gentleman. And every time I've had the pleasure of interacting with you, or my constituents have, I've had nothing but good things to say. And so I welcome this next chapter in your life. I hope you do too. Louise, I hope you do as well. Be prepared. I hope you have a lot of volunteer activities scheduled for him. But I wish you all the best in your next chapter in life, and thank you very much for all you've done for our city.
Thank you. Alderwoman from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ed, I don't know how far back I want to reveal that we've known each other, but you've always been around, you've always been supportive, and what I like about you is your calmness in situations. You and I have worked in various projects over the years and interacted with different city agencies, and you have always represented the city well. So feel good about what you've achieved. Know that we have appreciated. And again, I just want to say thank you for being a good person.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 9th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I may miss the ball games, that we didn't go to a whole lot, but occasionally, because I know you're a Cardinal fan too. First of all, I should have said congratulations, but Ed, I think city employees could take lessons from what you do and how you respond. You do truly know the meaning of customer service. And whether it's a good, bad, or whatever situation it is, you always get back and then follow up with getting back. And it's something that just not everyone truly understands, but you're a master of community service. And I've enjoyed the 14 years that I've been here with you, and I don't know that I should say I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss you here, but you're still plenty young. We're going to be around together for a long time. But I definitely want to say thank you. And enjoy your family. I know what that's like now.
Alderman from the 12th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Ed, I just want to say congratulations. You've been around almost as long as me, and we've worked well together, I think. Always when you came over to the garage, I gave you great cars to drive to your meetings, except for a couple that broke down. But other than that, no, I just want to congratulate you on your retirement and tell you that I think you've done a great job all the time you've been with the city. So I just want to say thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman from 20th.
Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Bushmeyer. First of all, I'm shocked that you still like your former landlord, but that's probably another thing. She was your former landlord, right? Phyllis was your former landlord.
Yes.
Very good. I am going to miss you. I learned about your retirement actually from a fellow who sings at a ballpark, sings the national anthem, and he said, isn't Ed Bushmeyer retiring? And I said, heck no, he's going to be there for a long time. Every couple of years you had to face the music of constituents with the reassessments. You always did that with coolness, with facts, and with dignity, and we much appreciated it, even though a lot of times it was the same message. It was a consistent message and a very well-received message, despite the fact that sometimes people's assessments went up. I'm going to miss you with the Bauer bill and the Illinois license plates. I know that you will have great time with Louise, and that's terrific. And I also know that your great service to the city of St. Louis in part was probably the result of your service in the state legislature, where you had to work with people many times, and you continued that work. We appreciate it very much within the city. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 17th.
Yes, Mr. President, I too would like to rise and congratulate Ed on a wonderful career. I'd like to echo the sentiments of the Alderman from the 20th. It's never a pleasant experience to be on the receiving end of those phone calls when somebody finds out their assessment went up quite a bit, and it was always, I thought, a wonderful representation of the city to be able to turn those irate citizens over to Ed with his very calm and deliberate and polite demeanor, and I found that he always handled those calls very professionally and really put the city in good light. However, I guess whenever I think of Ed Bushmeyer, I have to think about years ago when he was a state representative, and I guess you have kind of images or connotations of people, and I always have the image of Ed as being somebody who lived in the Soulard neighborhood, was really concerned about the governance of that neighborhood, and he, along with a group of other people, kind of really, at a time we kind of take for granted, but, you know, frankly, did some pretty courageous things in going out and challenging the establishment and getting elected and really making changes. And Ed, you and your contemporaries at that time, I think, are to be really commended. And I think it's made a real difference in the city, how that whole part of town has been governed ever since. So congratulations on a wonderful career, Ed.
Alderman from the 11th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. My added congratulations to Ed and Louise. Former Representative Bushmeyer and I stayed up in the wee small hours of the morning studying Robert's Rules of Order and the rules of the Missouri House of Representatives for months. Didn't we, Representative Bushmeyer? That's why they say what happens in Jefferson City usually is a mess, but anyway. Collectively, Ed and Louise have both opted to give back, and that's neat. They're just good people. Every time I called the assessor's office with an issue, which quite frankly I did not understand, Ed had the analytical prowess to be able to see through it. I think most importantly, when your constituents were done with them, whether or not they liked the answer or not, they know that they had been dealt with fairly. And I think that says a lot about Ed. I think it says a lot about our city. And I wish he and Louise and the grandkids just the very, very best in whatever they decide to do in their retirement years. Thank you, Ed.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman from the 1st.
President, members of the board, I think a person has to be judged by their entire career. I've known Mr. Bushmeyer for a long time, and for many years considered him to be a friend. My name is not on this resolution because, and Mr. Bushmeyer knows why, because my community was at the hands of Mr. Bushmeyer as he drew a map in 2001 that made it so that I and most of my community could not vote for 6 years. And what I think about that is that there are a couple of things I think about that, and there's a song called "They Smile in Your Face," but it's not that. More I think about the overt and covert racism. Overt racism says no black people allowed, no black people can apply. Covert racism says, come on in, yes, hey, how you doing, Sharon? Apply, and then I throw your application into the trash can, and you never ever know what's going on. And when I talk about racism or say it's racist, people can deny it because it's not overt. 2001 was one of the most covert and overt racisms that I have ever witnessed and experienced. And I am a child that was born in 1956, so I actually know about not being able to go into restaurants. I stood in line with my grandmother to be able for her to try to vote, and they had all these laws about why she couldn't. So in 2001, when the map came up, and that I found out that Mr. Bushmeyer was behind the scenes doing this along with the sponsor. And the sponsor told me, oh, we did this, we met with every little white alderman and then a few of the little black aldermen, and we did this behind your back. They did this, and they affected my right to vote. Not only mine, because if it was just Sharon Tyus, that's maybe okay, but it was an entire ward that they turned upside down so that they said they could get to me. But they didn't just get to me, they got to my community. And I'm sitting down here now, the 1st Ward Alderwoman, instead of 20 years as the 20th Ward Alderwoman, because I'm part of what the sponsor of this bill and Mr. Bushmeyer did. And I want him to know that we have not forgotten, because the then president of the board said, oh, well, they'll forget about this. Our community has not forgotten it, and you know it, Mr. President, because they let you know they haven't forgotten it. They let Deion Flowers know if they can find her that they haven't forgotten it. And some of these other people may not have to be exposed to it, but you all are the only 2 blacks left that voted for it, and they are not happy about it, okay? And specifically, they sent me down here to remind people we are not happy about not being able to vote for 6 years. That's a serious voting rights violation. And pretty soon, I worked all summer long, hard as I could with people. Hopefully, pretty soon, not only will we address this, because the good thing about people saw that they did the Supreme Court overturned the fifth part of the Voting Rights Act, which said that, you know, you got to have a pre-clearance. But what they did not overturn, and which is so important here, is the second, which says all you have to do is show that that was a racist impact. A whole community not being able to vote for 6 years is a racist impact. Me not having my seniority down here after I had been elected by my community for all those many years is a racist impact. So for years I considered Mr. Bushmeyer a friend of mine. And so I was shocked when it came out that Mr. Bushmeyer was behind the scenes drawing this little map. Not a fair map that addressed fairly who had lost population, because most certainly the 20th Ward was right where it needed to be. Not even that we don't like Sharon Tyson, so we're going to get rid of her, because that's what you do. Politics, you go after a person. But when you go after a whole community and take away their rights to vote, then you celebrate this person, make sure that you have in their record that horrible part that they did, because that's what happens a lot of times with people who are covert racists. They smile, they go through the community, people shake their hands, they're great people, because they can do it in such a quiet way, and people can assign it in such a way that, oh, that's just personal. Not personal with Sharon Tyson back down here. That's not personal. But what is personal with me is that when it was my 4 years and it was time for me to vote, I couldn't. When it was 4 years, and Martha West, who sits down here, who was my constituent, she couldn't. That's personal with me when we take away people's right to vote. It's personal with me as a black female who stands on this floor where the people had to have 2 different, not one, but 2 different amendments to the Constitution so I could vote. Because just letting men vote, I couldn't do that. Just letting black votes, I couldn't do that. So I am one of a few people who had to have 2 amendments to be able to vote. And then when it was my time to vote, like everybody else, I wasn't able to because of a racist behind the scene, behind the dealing that you were involved in. And I guess that really, really still troubles me, because I did used to think of you as a friend. And so you just never know what person is behind your back. You don't want to, as a black person, always be saying, this is racist, this is racist. But it is racist. When I started here in 1991, we had 11 black aldermen. But we had gotten 11 black aldermen in 1974. Here it is, 2013, we have a majority population with less black aldermen. We've been going over the numbers about this whole redistricting. Ridiculous, ridiculous. There's no reason that we have 11 black aldermen, except for people have used the map. That's the thing that Mr. Bushmeyer did. They have used a map to be able to take blacks and push them into certain parts or spread them out so that you could have the most white representation at the expense of black representation. And that is wrong. I would not support it if it was the other way, and I don't support it now. And that is why I'm not on the resolution for Mr. Bushmeyer, because not only do I think that the whole thing was overtly racist, I also know that it was covertly. And when it's covertly, people have such a hard time. Unfortunately, in this city, when I first got elected, one of the major 2020 or one of the magazines on TV, they came here. They did a quiet investigation of St. Louis. They went down and they sent whites and blacks to apply for apartments, apply for cars, and all of this thing to try to get a loan for a car. And what they came up with in 1992 or 3 was that when you apply for a car in South St. Louis at a certain place, that when you were black, they charged you more interest. When you went to apply for a apartment, then if you were black, the apartment disappeared. So we like to say that we have gotten to a place in time that we have a black president, That doesn't mean anything. That we have a black president board of aldermen doesn't mean anything. Fair representation means much more to me. And that we don't have at this board of aldermen, and we don't have it in some part because of you, Mr. Bushmeyer. I don't respect what you did. I am sorry that you had to be a part of that. I do know you were an employee, so I do hold somebody other than you more responsible, but at the end of the day, you were involved in it, and it meant that I couldn't vote. And I don't know who thinks it's all right for a whole community, including you, Mr. President, to have voted to keep my community from voting, okay? That is awful. All of y'all who voted for you, 10 of you all who are still here, ought to be ashamed of yourself. I came back down here to let you know, Mr. President, and for the former president, that we have not forgotten it, and that we intend to address it, and that when you bring people like this to us and hold them up, that you have to also bring their whole record to talk about this. This has not gone away. I had one of my colleagues who voted for it come to me and say, well, Sharon, that just happened 10 years ago. Oh, well, let me steal $1 million from you or $10 million from you and then tell you that just happened 10 years ago. For us, it's alive. We're dealing with it. All this summer, I dealt with it out in my community, looking at the things that have happened with what you did. It is something we deal with on a day-to-day basis. It is racist. It was racist then. It's ongoing racism. And until we right that wrong, I will continue to bring it up, and I will continue to not honor people who were involved in that.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 8th.
That's a hard act to follow.
Yeah.
But that is a hard act. My memory's not that good. And I'm sure that there's numerous people here that disagree. Ed and I had lots of disagreements when he was younger and I was younger, and he was usually many times on the other side of the fence. But over the years, we came into respect, and then a really good, solid working relationship. You know, Ed, you've been down here. You know how the aldermen are. We got 28 people. Really, that's 28 mayors with 28 different opinions. I can't attest to any of my colleagues' opinions on any matters. I know that as your job in the city function, you always perform flawlessly. We've never had any problems with any of your offices. I know that when my mother had a problem not getting her personal property tax bill down in Florida, you managed to get it to her before the end of the year. And if you can deal with my mother and get her stuff on time, I know you're doing a very, very good job for the city of St. Louis. You know, we'll miss your expertise, your quiet, deliberative manner, and good luck to you and your family. And for you and your family, there's 28 of us, and we all, for the vast majority of us, feel very, very good about the efforts that you've put in on behalf of the citizens. So thank you so much.
Alderwoman from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Ed, Louise, congratulations on a well-deserved retirement. Ed has always been very responsive when I've had issues and problems. He's come to the 28th Ward, explained many things to my constituents who love all of them. They tend to be the high-maintenance type, don't they, Ed? So thank you and congratulations. Congratulations to your family. I think that it's a great testament. I see your grandkids here today, and you know what? It's no wonder you want to get out of that office and go play with those cute little boogers. So anyway, congratulations, Ed. And I would just call the question here if I could.
Wait, we have one more thing. We have Alderwoman. I understand, Alderman, but there was a motion earlier to move that this thing was in bank prior to the Alderwoman from the 1st taking the floor. So I'd ask that the Alderwoman from the 28th, if she would just hold that for a second, because they want, the Alderman from the 11th would like to reconsider that motion, because the Alderwoman from the 1st obviously would not like to have her name on the resolution. I think that would reduce confusion by a
I think
long shot.
reconsidering that's a great idea.
Okay, all right. Alderwoman, okay. Alderman from the 11th, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, having voted on the prevailing side, I move the vote by which Board Resolution number 124 was adopted, be reconsidered.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 11th, seconded by the Alderman from the 7th. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So the motion has been dismissed. Alderman from the 28th.
I would move that we call the question.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 28th that we call the question, seconded by the Alderman from the 15th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Flowers. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Moore. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderwoman Young. Alderman Conway. Alderman Ortman. Alderman Vollmer. Alderman Villa. Alderman Arnowitz. Alderman Wessels. Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Florida. Alderwoman Behringer. Alderman Rhodey. Alderman Kennedy. Alderwoman Davis. Alderman Schmid. Alderman French. Alderman Boyd. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Ogilvie. Alderman Cone. Alderman Williamson. Alderman Carter. Alderwoman Cruzen. President Reed.
Aye.
Alderwoman Flowers. Alderman Moore. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderman French. Alderman Ogilvie. Alderman Carter. "22 aye votes, 1 no vote.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 28th. Would you like to speak?
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you all for your warm and even heated remarks. I've enjoyed working with all of you over the years, and we've worked in a variety of capacities. I do want to introduce my family members here. My wife, Louise, my sister, Kathy, my daughter, Lisa, my son-in-law, Kevin, and my 2 youngest grandchildren, Finn and Gavin. My other sister, Marilyn, is out of town on vacation. My son, Christopher, is on a job assignment in Los Angeles. And my oldest grandson just started kindergarten a couple weeks ago, so he's in school today. A lot of times when people are in a situation such as myself today, you'll hear them say they couldn't have done it without their spouse. And it's become sort of a cliche. But those of you who know Louise know that it's much more than that in my case. She's been a true partner, and it's funny, over the years, I've been the public figure. I've been the one whose name was in the newspaper and, on TV, etc. And so people would call the house, or they'd run into us at get-togethers. And as you know, Louise kept her maiden name when we got married, which is Tankovich. So at these get-togethers, people would come up to her and say, "Hello, Mrs. Bushmeyer, how are you?" Well, about 8 years ago, she became the Democrat committeewoman in the 16th Ward. And since then, things have changed. Now we go to meetings or we get phone calls, and they say, "Mr. Tankovich." And so it's been refreshing to see Louise get the recognition that she so richly deserves as well. I want to thank Mayor Vince Shamel, who gave me my first opportunity to come into city government, and Mayor Slay, who has given me the opportunity to continue to serve over the past 12 and a half years. In the city's history, there have been only 4 mayors that have served at least 3 terms, and I've had the good fortune to have been a member of 2 of their administrations. I've worn many hats over the years, and some of those were mentioned in the proclamation. And over the years, I've made many, many friends and very few enemies, and I'm certainly grateful for that. I've tried to treat everybody with dignity and respect, and I've also tried to maintain a sense of humor, and that certainly helps at times. Perhaps what I'm proudest of in my years in government is having served as a mentor for decades to people like Phyllis Young, Jim Shrewsbury, and Peter Sartino, who are among the finest public servants this city has ever produced. In more recent years, I've been able to help launch the careers of Donna Behringer, our circuit clerk, Jane Schweitzer, and some other candidates, and they're well on their way to establishing strong legacies as well. I also have been blessed over the years. Every stop I've made in city government, there have been people that have been kind and helpful to show me the way. People like Marie Jeffries in Mayor's office for so many years, Charlene Deacon in public safety, Leo Ham, Wynette Alderson, John Gilbert, Claudia Rowe in the assessor's office. I also am fortunate the strong staff I've had through the years, including my current staff in the assessor's office, many of whom are up in the gallery this morning. I told them they could attend if they promised not to throw anything down on me. And the marshals told me they only had to confiscate 1 anvil and 2 bowling balls, so I guess that's pretty good. In closing, I just want to thank you for this recognition that you've given me today and for the strong working relationship we've had. I've had over 30 years in city government, and during that period of time in my life, I've had a strong marriage, 2 great kids, a wonderful son-in-law, and now 3 great-grandchildren that I get to spend more time with. Along the way, I've had a rewarding career, and I've got to do a lot of things that many others would not have gotten to do, and for that I'm grateful. You know, when you sum it all up, there's not much more a guy could ask for, and for that I'm truly grateful, and I thank you all.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt our courtesy resolution. Count all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. That will return to our regular order of business. Introduction of honored guests. Any introduction of honored guests? Alderman from the 9th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, I'd like to have for my honor guest today, Ronnie Auer, who is staying cool in the leisure room.
All right. Alderman from the 22nd.
And thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I have 2 honored guests this morning. My first guest is Ms. Joanne Williams with the Carpenters District Council and Mr. Johnny Little with E. Little Communications.
Alderwoman from the 14th.
President Reed, I'd like to introduce as my very special guest Senator Harry Kennedy, committeeman of the 14th Ward, and Gary Otten from the Painters District Council. And I'd also like to recognize Johnny Little of Johnny Little PR as a former co-worker of mine.
Right. Alderman from the 23rd.
Thank you, Mr. President.
23rd.
She can go first.
Oh, you go first.
You can go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
Obviously not paying attention, I apologize. I'd like to introduce as my special guest the son of St. Louis City Treasurer Office employee Leonard Johnson, John Rose, 6 years old. Thanks for coming down today.
No, you're good.
Alderman from the 23rd.
Yes, I'd also like to have Gary Otten as my special guest, David Holmes, Pierce from Firefighters, Celeste Reeder from the Realtors, and Ale from Local 73.
All right.
I keep getting his name on. It's Percy, not Pierce.
Percy Green.
Last week I was,
Third.
I think, 2 times the third, and 2 weeks ago I was introducing him as Ale, and but I keep screwing up his name. I'm going to correct that this time.
All right, thanks. Alderman from 26.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I have to like to announce as my special guest today, Mr. Anthony Lancia from the AGC. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman from the 12th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. The Alderman from the 4th isn't here today, so I'll introduce his family from AT&T as our special guest today in Ameren.
Alderman from the 3rd. Alderman from the 3rd.
I thought you said 23rd.
No, the 3rd. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I
okay.
said that.
I'd like to introduce as my special guest today, Tenario Martin, who's here today.
All right, excellent. Any further introductions? Any further introductions? Alderman from the 10th, like to wrap us up?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. As we gather here on September 20th, this is the day in 1519 that Ferdinand Magellan left to first circumnavigate the world. He would have left in 1518 except for a resolution presentation by the local board of aldermen.
We will dispense with line item 5, approval of the minutes. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in sections A, B, and C of the agenda and have been placed in all aldermen's mailboxes. I have from His Honor the Mayor the following correspondence. Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for reappointment to the Affordable Housing Commission. Mrs. Efateo Davison Cade, residing at 4398 West Pine, whose term will expire on June 30th, 2016. Mr. Derek Thomas, residing at 3443 Minnesota, whose term will expire on June 30th, 2016. I respectfully request your approval of these appointments. Sincerely, Francis G. Slay, Mayor, City of St. Louis.
Alderman from the 13th, you recognize on the mayor's appointment to the Affordable Housing Commission.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, I move for approval of the appointment to the Affordable Housing Commission.
Moved by the Alderman from the 13th, seconded by the Alderman from the 20th. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment to the Forest Park Advisory Board. The reappointment of Sally Niklajovic, residing at 506 Lake, and whose term will expire on June the 26th, 2017. The appointment of Andy Schwartz, residing at 10 Homeland, and whose term will expire on June the 26th, 2017. I respectfully request your approval of these appointments. Sincerely, Francis G. Slay, Mayor, City of St. Louis.
Alderman from the 17th, you recognize on the mayor's appointment to the Forest Park Advisory Board.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we accept his appointments.
It's moved by the Alderman from the 17th, seconded by the Alderman from the 22nd. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment to the Enright Arlington Community Improvement District. Michelle McClanahan, residing at 5340 Delmar, whose term will expire on June the 5th, 2017. Harriet Feldman, residing at 150 Carondelet, whose term will expire on June the 5th, 2017. Stephen Levin, residing at 4225 Laclede, whose term will expire on June the 5th, 2017. Amy Levin, residing at 4225 Laclede, whose term will expire on June the 5th, 2017. Leon Feldman, residing at 150 Carondelet, whose term will expire on June the 5th, 2017. I respectfully request your approval of these appointments. Sincerely, Francis G. Slay, Mayor, City of St. Louis.
Alderman from 26, you recognize on the mayor's appointment to the Enright Arlington Community Improvement District.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I move for the adoption of the appointment to the Enright Arlington Community Improvement District.
Moved by the Alderman from 26, seconded by the Alderman from 9th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment to the Central West End North Special Business District. Sam Kopler, residing at 4909 Laclede, whose term will expire on December 31st, 2017. Fred Ricks Jr., residing at 4501 Lendl, and whose term will expire on December 31st, 2017. I respectfully request your approval of these appointments. Sincerely, Francis G. Slay, Mayor, City of St. Louis.
Alderman from the 28th, you recognize on the mayor's appointment to the Central West End North Special District.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I move to confirm the mayor's appointments of Sam Kopler and Fred Ricks to the...
Moved by the Alderman from the 28th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
That's the extent of report of city officials.
We dispense with line items 7 through 10, first reading of board bills.
Board Bill 185, sponsored by Alderwoman Ingracia, an ordinance pertaining to all parks which are owned and maintained by the city, prohibiting any persons not accompanying a child from being in or upon the confines of areas designated as children's play areas, which are owned and maintained by the city, containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 186, sponsored by Alderwoman Young, an ordinance recommended by the Port Authority Commission of the City and the Board of Public Service, authorizing and directing the mayor and the comptroller to enter into the operations and maintenance agreement by and among the Metropolitan Park and Recreation District, doing business as the Great Rivers Greenway District, and the city and the Port Authority and the City Arch River 2015 Foundation, containing an emergency clause. That's the extent of our first readings.
Reference to committee.
To the Parks Committee, Board Bills 185 and 186, that's the extent of reference to committee.
We will dispense with line items 13 through 19. And 21 and 22, miscellaneous unfinished business.
We have none.
Announcements.
Tuesday, Ways and Means Committee meeting, 9 a.m. in the Kennedy Room. Thursday, Neighborhood Development Committee meeting, 2 p.m. in the Kennedy Room. Friday, full board meeting, 10 a.m. in the chambers. That's the extent of my announcements.
Alderman from 10th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This Sunday at St. Ambrose Parish from noon to 6 will be the annual ravioli dinner, which benefits the Hill Sick and Elderly Fund. Please come by. The food will be very nice from 12 to 6. There'll be a little gambling and maybe an adult beverage. It is a Catholic church. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman from 8th.
Morning, Mr. President, members of the board. Tuesday at 9:30, we'll have a Transportation and Commerce Committee meeting. We'll be taking up some airport bills, and they'll be on your agenda that you get today, that gets sent out today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 17th.
Yes, Mr. President. Last night I had the pleasure of sitting out in the middle of Manchester for about an hour and a half watching Shakespeare's in the Streets. And so they closed down Manchester, and they're going to do that again this evening and tomorrow night. And I was unaware of it until earlier this year, but last year I guess Cherokee Street had the opportunity of having them come in. But they actually come in, revise a Shakespearean play to modern times, and then they position it in the neighborhood. So they reference all the neighborhood landmarks and so forth. It was a really fun time, and anyone who is into Shakespeare and would like to see a modern twist on it, I would encourage you to drop by the Grove on about the 4300 block, and they'll shut down Highway 100 for an hour or two tonight. Thank you.
All right, Alderman from the 24th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tomorrow is the annual Dogtown Street Musicians Festival, all afternoon, beginning around 1 o'clock. This is a free event, but bring your dollar bills so you can vote for your favorite musicians by putting a dollar bill in their bucket. Thank you.
Alderman from the 14th.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to remind the city of St. Louis that tomorrow we will be opening the skate park and community garden for the Better Bevo Now NOM, and that will be held at Osceola and Marginford, just across from Oak Hill School. Also, Macklin Days, come on out and enjoy some good fare, food, fun, and camaraderie in the 5,000 block of Macklin. Both of these are just south of Chippewa. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Safe Connections is an organization that provides services to women who have been abused. In the past, they have held a fundraiser, and it's been at various locations around town where they show amazing pieces of art that are quilts. That program had moved to the Foundry Arts out in St. Charles, which really upset me because I think that we provide a lot of services here and we have great spaces for displaying those. Tonight, they have moved it back into the city, and I encourage everyone to go to SLU's Art Museum. It's an event that, as I said, has amazing artwork and it supports a great cause. So if you find it in your schedule to go by SLU's Art Museum, you'll see a benefit program for Safe Connections, which I think is a very worthy service, and I encourage you all to go by there and keep it in the city.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 3rd.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'd like to make people aware that this coming Tuesday at Clay School, located at Farrar and 14th Street, we will have our first town hall meeting after the summer is over. The chief of police will be there, the sergeants in the 5th district and the 4th district will be there. So anybody who is interested in what's going on, show up, because you have a chance to win $200 in free gasoline donated by the service stations in the 3rd Ward.
Yeah. Alderman from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Sounds like it's going to be a busy weekend in St. Louis, and if the weather guys are right, which is, a 50-50, it's going to be a beautiful weekend. But don't forget, this weekend is the balloon race in Forest Park, Saturday afternoon. The balloon glow is tonight. Hopefully it clears off by then. Also, I would point out that at Greg Freeman Four Corners Park, which is the corner of DePere and Kingsbury, they're having, Skinker to Bolivar Community Council's having a barbecue and band, Hudson and the Hoodoo Cats, tomorrow night, 6 to 9. It's a great little event in the park. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Alderman from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. If you have time today, check out St. Louis City Treasurer's website to find places where they are using parking meters as alternative spaces to encourage green initiatives. That's going on all day today. Thanks.
All right, excellent. Alderman from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. This is a busy weekend in the city of St. Louis. Tomorrow is Dance St. Louis in Grand Center. And we brought back the act that actually dances down the side of the Continental Building. And so when you go through there today, you'll see them practicing, and they were practicing last night. It's quite a feat to watch. Also, we'll be unveiling a mural that's at the Triumph Restaurant. It is a digital art interaction. It is one of 3 in the country. There's one in California and one in New York. And this, you can use your device to interact with the mural. You can change the mural and its design. You can become a part of the design, and it's quite interesting. So I suggest that you go by and try it out, but we'll be unveiling that tomorrow as well. In the old neighborhood on 2700 block of Thomas, they'll be having their block party, their annual block party, and it is being supported by green initiatives and the sustainable programs that we are sponsoring in the city of St. Louis. So I hope you have a chance to go by and say hi to old friends that attended Dunbar, Vashon, and all those schools in that area. Also, Washington AME Church tomorrow is having a fashion show and fundraiser. It is the first initiative for them in their campaign building fund, and it starts at 11 o'clock tomorrow. If you are a former member, current member, or a neighborhood resident or friend, I suggest that you go and support Washington AME Church. Thank you.
All right. Also, hold on one second. The employee picnic is going to be on October 18th. So I'm really encouraging members of the Board of Aldermen, if you guys are interested in helping with the planning or anything for that employee picnic, just get in touch with Mary so that you can get some of the things that you would like to see on that day factored into the festivities. You know, that picnic is a picnic for the Board of Aldermen that allows the Board of Aldermen to show the city employees that they appreciate them, right? So it's been a very successful event across the last few years that we've had, and I'm encouraging everybody to get involved in it. It's sure to be another one that the employees will really appreciate. I know they really appreciated the ones that we've had in the past. Alderman from 26.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. And like you said, that picnic I think is well stated. That's something that is very helpful and kind of uplifts the morale of the city employees. We understand they haven't had a raise in quite some time. We know they do get paid, but at the same time, it's good to kind of give back and show that we do appreciate them. Thursday, the 26th, we have an award meeting at Union Memorial Church at 6:30. Just a friendly reminder telling constituents to come on out next Thursday, September 26th, for the 26th award meeting at 6:30, 1141 Belt, Union Memorial Church. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Alderman from 13th, you recognize on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to excuse the alderman from the 2nd, 5th, and 21st wards due to necessary absence.
Moved by the Alderman from the 13th, seconded by the Alderman from the 22nd and the Alderwoman from the 15th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Alderman from the 13th, recognized on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adjourn the meeting until Friday, 10 a.m., September 27th.
Moved by the Alderman from 13th, I entertain seconded by the Alderman from 20th. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, we stand adjourned.
Ward lies in one of the most historically rich areas in North St. Louis. Hello, I'm Todd Blackstock, your host today for In Your Ward. On today's episode, we're going to take you on a journey through the 21st Ward with Alderman Antonio French. We're going to show you some great revitalization efforts taking place in this part of the city. We're going to introduce you to some business owners and civic leaders and tell you how the Alderman is tackling crime head-on in this part of St. Louis. So stay tuned for In Your Ward, coming up next on STL TV.